Have you ever asked yourself this question? Why is it that some men fade from a woman's memory so easily, while others stay quietly like a shadow, even years after it's over? Why do some women delete messages, erase photos, and move on within weeks? But with one specific man, it's different. She remembers his presence, his calmness. She remembers how she felt around him. It's not about looks. It's not about status. It's not even about love. It's about the kind of impact a man's energy leaves behind. Because when you cross paths with a rare kind of man, one who's centered, composed, grounded, something deep inside you shifts. That man becomes a reference point. He becomes the standard she'll compare others to, even if she never admits it out loud. And that's what we're talking about today, the kind of man a woman never forgets. Before we begin, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my Stoic journey, where we blend Stoic philosophy with modern psychology to help you master your emotions, your purpose, and your relationships. Now let's begin this journey. 1. The calm protector, the man who makes her feel safe without controlling her. Here's a truth few men understand. Women don't fall in love with perfect men. They fall for the ones whose energy makes them feel safe. Not the kind of safety that comes from dominance or control, but emotional safety, the kind that says you can be fully yourself here, and I won't judge you. Most men get this wrong. They think leadership means control. They think being masculine means being loud, forceful, or intimidating. But the Stoic man? He's different. He's calm, centered, and present. He doesn't raise his voice to prove a point. He doesn't use manipulation to win arguments. He doesn't guilt trip her into obedience. He simply is. When she's emotional, he listens. When she's distant, he stays grounded. When she's overthinking, he doesn't add fuel. He becomes stillness. And that emotional stability, that quiet, calm energy, makes her feel safe. Because here's something powerful. A woman's nervous system naturally syncs with the energy of the man she's around. If you're chaotic, she feels chaos. If you're calm, she finds peace. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." When you embody calmness, when you master your reactions, you don't just earn respect, you earn trust. And trust, my friend, is the deepest form of attraction. Even years later, she might not remember what you said. She might forget where you went or what you wore, but she'll remember that peace. She'll remember the way her body relaxed when you walked into a room, and that memory stays on quietly, deeply, like an emotional fingerprint. 2. The silent mentor, the man who helps her grow. The second kind of man she never forgets is the one who challenged her to evolve, not by preaching, not by judging, but by living as an example of discipline and purpose. See, most men try to make a woman comfortable. They avoid difficult conversations. They encourage laziness in the name of love. They lower their standards just to keep the peace. But comfort doesn't create connection. Growth does. The Stoic man inspires growth just by being who he is. He doesn't talk about being disciplined. He is disciplined. He doesn't tell her to read, he reads. He doesn't tell her to face her fears, he faces his own. And when she sees that, something in her awakens. She starts thinking differently. She starts questioning her own habits. She starts evolving, not because he demanded it, but because his example made her want to. That's real influence. That's leadership, not through control, but through presence. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it." And that's what the unforgettable man does. He lives his truth, quietly, consistently, and with conviction. She might not always understand him. She might even argue with him. But deep down she feels it, that being around him makes her want to become more. And when he's gone, she realizes something. No one has made her grow like that since. And that's when the memory starts to haunt her. Because growth is addictive. And she'll remember the man who awakened it within her. 3. The Stoic warrior, the man who walks away with dignity. This one hurts the most, because no matter how deep the connection, sometimes relationships end. But the way you leave, that's what defines the final chapter in her mind. When most men face rejection, they lose themselves. They beg, they argue, they promise to change. They try to remind her of the good times, hoping emotion will bring her back. But the Stoic man? He doesn't beg. He doesn't chase. He doesn't lose his composure. He feels the pain deeply, but he accepts it with grace. He doesn't seek revenge. He doesn't spread bitterness. He lets go with respect, and for her and for himself. That silence, that self-control, that quiet acceptance, and it's powerful, because nothing is more haunting to a woman than a man who could have fought to keep her, but chose peace instead. Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free." Freedom is not the absence of pain. It's the strength to let go of what you can't control. When you walk away with dignity, you remind her that your value never depended on her attention. You show her that your love was strong, but your self-respect is stronger. And that realization lingers, because while she may forget the man who begged, she never forgets the one who walked away in silence, calm, grounded, free. 4. The unmoved mind. The man who masters himself. There's another layer here. A woman never forgets the man who didn't lose himself in her. You see, emotional dependence is the death of attraction. When a man's mood depends on her response, when her validation defines his happiness, she senses weakness. But when you're grounded in your own world, when you have goals, values, discipline, and self-control, you become a pillar. She can feel your stability. She knows she can't shake you easily. That's rare, and because most men lose their balance in love, they forget who they are. They stop chasing purpose. They trade ambition for comfort. But not the Stoic man. He loves deeply, but he never abandons himself. He remains in control of his emotions, his mind, and his focus. That's what Marcus Aurelius meant when he said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." When she sees that you can love her deeply without losing your center, that you can care without clinging, that you can feel without falling apart, you become unforgettable. Because you're not just another man seeking affection. You're a man who carries peace within himself. And that kind of peace, it's rare, it's magnetic, it's unforgettable. The silent legacy, the man whose energy stays after he's gone. Even after it's over, when the calls stop, when the texts fade, there's one thing that never truly disappears: your energy. Your energy is your fingerprint. Every time you handled conflict with maturity, every time you stayed calm instead of reacting, every time you spoke truth without anger, you imprinted that energy into her memory. So later, when she meets someone new, she'll compare, not consciously but energetically. Why doesn't he feel like that? Why doesn't he give me that calm? Why does this feel noisy when it used to feel peaceful? That's not nostalgia, that's recognition. She remembers how it felt to be around real peace. That's your silent legacy. And the irony? You didn't even try to create it. You just lived by Stoic principles, discipline, calmness, integrity, respect. And that alone made you unforgettable. 6. The Stoic truth, what she really remembers. Here's the final truth most men never understand. A woman doesn't remember the expensive dinners, the trips, or the gifts. She remembers who you were when things got hard. She remembers how you handled conflict. She remembers how you stayed calm when she was emotional. She remembers that you didn't try to win. You tried to understand. She remembers that you stayed composed even when she tested you. She remembers that you didn't need to raise your voice, because your presence alone spoke louder than words. And she remembers the moment she realized that she may never find another man like you. Not because you were perfect, but because you were real. You were grounded. You were balanced. You were rare. 7. The Stoic path of becoming that man. Now maybe you're listening and thinking, how do I become that kind of man? You don't fake it. You build it. You practice stillness. You develop discipline. You master your emotions before you try to master anyone else's. You don't chase validation. You chase peace. You don't look for control. You build character. That's how Stoicism transforms you. Because when you live with principle, when your actions align with your values, people feel it. You stop being reactive. You stop being needy. You stop trying to prove your worth. And that's when you become magnetic. Because you're no longer trying to impress anyone. You're simply being the kind of man who leaves a lasting mark without even trying. So remember this. A woman never forgets the man who made her feel safe. She never forgets the man who made her grow. And she never forgets the man who walked away with dignity. Those 3 energies, peace, growth, and respect, are the holy trinity of masculine presence. And once a woman experiences that, she doesn't forget it. She might move on. She might smile again. But somewhere deep in her mind, there's a quiet echo that says, he was different, and that difference is what Stoicism builds in you. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to my Stoic journey for more lessons on Stoicism, self-mastery, and psychology. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.